Hello and welcome to Marches, just in there, just on the last day. Marches, all the everything. And if you're watching this or listening to this on the podcast, you won't know, but I've just had quite an interesting ride to get to the point of recording this. So thankfully you missed out on all the technical problems that have led up to me getting to this point to record this live. And I'm really hoping the rest of the experience is a bit smoother. So I'm going to, as ever, talk first about what I've been consuming and creating over the last month. And then I'm going to dive deep into, rather than just one topic, as I normally do, it really is all the everything. I'm going to be diving deep into a whole array of topics chosen by our Facebook group members. I missed last month. We've just been very busy starting Wake Wild Medicine, working on the rebirth of Wake Wild. And so I took a month off, then said, I'm back. What would you like me to talk about? And got such amazing ideas. I was like, this is going to be like trying to choose my favorite child. I'm not going to choose, as I often say to my children when they're asking me who the favorite is, you're all the favorite. So I'm actually going to speak about as many topics as I can in the time I have. And I'm wondering if I may end up doing this, if not all the time regularly. Certainly I think I'll do an episode like this quite regularly, I guess, depending on if I enjoy it and you enjoy it, and if it was like the right thing to do. But it feels for me quite a fun way of doing this, that I get the opportunity to move about over all different topics, which, you know, the very fact this is called All the Everything is because I enjoy doing that. So what have I been consuming over the last month? I'm actually going to talk about two things, because I planned to talk about one thing and then I had something else pop in this morning, so I'm going to talk about both of them. The first thing is a biography about Marilyn Monroe, and I've read absolutely tons of biographies about Monroe over the years. I've been a huge fan of hers right from my early teens. And then I did film studies at A-level and chose her films as an area of study. And, this has literally just occurred to me, I did an essay for her for my English literature, I believe. Seems an odd thing, but I've definitely done. It was some English exam, and I did some kind of study on Marilyn Monroe for that as well, but I can't think why that would be. So suffice to say, I have been, I could say, obsessed with Marilyn Monroe for many years, and I don't think I ever really knew why. She certainly was, for me, having grown up to a large extent really lacking women role models. I was raised by my father, and much of the time didn't really have many women present in my life, or if they were kind of in and out of my life. So I think there was a lot that I saw in Marilyn Monroe that was, to me, a kind of, I guess, an example of womanhood on many different levels. And I think sometimes I didn't actually, there was a kind of surface level in terms of, you know, like analysing her makeup and learning how to do makeup from her example. But there were other levels that I probably didn't recognise until later. Anyway, the reason I found myself drawn back to reading yet another biography was a couple of weeks ago. I met my sister, I think it was, in a local, it's kind of like a cafe come shop come food hall. It's nice, it's really nice. It has a mixture of all different places to eat, and they have posters of all different movie stars and rock stars, like the greats from the last, I don't know, 100 years or so, and quite a few of Monroe, which I've seen every time I've gone there. Anyway, this time I went to the loo, and there was a poster of Monroe in the loo. And I looked at her, and just in this, like, I wasn't even thinking about any of these topics. I wasn't thinking about Monroe. I wasn't really thinking about anything particular. I just happened to look at this picture and then just knew she was autistic. And it was just one of those, like, just undeniable knowings out of the blue that hit me. And I burst into tears. And it's hard to even know, I can feel the emotion rising now again. It's hard to even know why there was so much emotion there, but I can rationalize why it might have been, but I honestly don't know if it was just and I've spoken about this on the show before, that those of us that feel truth in an embodied sense can feel it, and certainly this is true for me. I cry, I get chills, and I get truth bumps. And so I think it probably was that form of, like, embodied knowing of truth. Anyway, I kind of pulled myself together, went back out, and then got home, and I was trying to cook dinner, that was it. And then my husband came over and said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, and I went to answer him, and I just burst into tears again. I was trying to say, I've just realised that Marilyn Monroe was autistic. He was like, "Oh, bless you, why are you so upset?" I don't know. And I think at that point it was started to become more of a sense of, like, bless her heart, like, she had such a difficult life. You'll probably know that she was raised in a series of foster homes and had all manner of very difficult experiences. And to think of her going through all of that and being autistic too, I just found really heartbreaking. And the fact that she then lived her whole life and died having not known that herself, and other people wouldn't have known that about her. So there was just so much emotion there for me. Anyway, then I started to, like, logically think, does that make sense, sort of logical? Like, I knew in that moment based on nothing at all, but does it logically make sense that she was? And then I started, like, going through, because I know lots of being autistic myself, I have this kind of, like, encyclopedia about Monroe in my head. And so started to go through all the things I knew about her that point to her being autistic. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's so obvious. And then Googled, and other people have made that same connection. So hence I was then drawn to read yet another biography about her, with now having that lens of noticing the places that are so obvious. And I then, of course, saw more. Like, one of them was the way that she liked to cook her first husband dinners with carrots and peas, because she was particularly liked that color combination. That's why it was like this kind of fascination with that same color combination. She used to dish it up over and over again. Another thing was she was really interested in the workings of the human body, and just, like, devoured this ancient, I guess, sort of textbooks, encyclopedia about the bones in the human body. And then apparently, years after that, she'd retained it to such a depth that she'd be able to sort of, speak at this, like, expert level about the workings of the human body. And so just two very short examples, but her relationship to a lot of things points to autism. The degree of focus she had as to how she looked, how she went about her career. There's so many different pointers, like more than I can possibly go through. And it's not that I'm asking you, like, you may choose not to believe me, that's completely okay. But I really just wanted to share this just deep sense of kind of like, oh, she's kin, that I experienced. So that's what I've been reading. And it was interesting, I posted about this. It was straight off the back of my last book I read, being an autobiography of Jung, who is also like often described as being autistic. And so it's kind of seemed like quite a juxtaposition, Jung and Monroe, and then actually maybe it's not. So that's what I've been reading. And then I was asked, when I was asked to speak on all these different topics, one of the things was, can you recommend another TV show to watch? Because again, sometimes when I do this section of what I've been consuming, I might share what I've been watching. And what occurred to me was to share that I've been watching, I think it's called, I think, is it Valhalla Vikings or Vikings Valhalla? I think it's the latter. And it's like a kind of sequel to Vikings, but I think about 100 years on in history. And so my recommendation, if you haven't watched the original series of Vikings, like, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. It is the only TV show I have watched off my own bat for ever, almost, like certainly for decades. So when we watch TV shows, my husband discovers a TV show he thinks I'll like, and then lines it all up for me, and then I see if I like it. And this was one show where I felt such a draw to it. I actually watched it on my own. I watched the whole, how many series it is, like 6 series of Vikings on my own. But because I don't know how to work with TV, because I never use it, I'd either have to have my husband or my son set it up for me. But my desire to watch it was that great. I would do that because I felt this such strong sense of wanting to watch it. Anyway, the follow-up, these Vikings Valhalla, I wouldn't say it's as good, but it's definitely really watchable. And I was reflecting on what is it that about this that I love about, like, why am I so drawn to it? And my sense is it's this. There is this absolute openness, acceptance, appetite for the full range of the human experience. There isn't this kind of disavowal of the underbelly, the darkness and the shadows that we see in our modern culture. Everything is possible, allowed, from the like heights of spirituality to the absolute depths of violence, like the incredible, beauty and sex and like sacrifice, honor, celebration of the masculine and the feminine. It just has everything all held together. And to like such an extent as well. It's not just a kind of gesture in certain directions. It really is like going to the extremes of all of these different themes that are available to us as humans, which, how many times do we get to see that? So I don't think I had even really seen that until I was pondering it this week. So again, if you haven't watched the original Viking series, go watch that first. If you watched and enjoyed the first set of series of Vikings, then I think you'll enjoy Vikings Valhalla. Of course, no one can possibly live up to the incredible Lagertha and Ragnar, obviously, but there are some really good characters and I did enjoy it as well. So there's my double recommendation for what I've been consuming this month. Coming on to what I've been creating, I'll try and make this one a bit shorter as I've spoken at length about what I've been consuming. So the 2 things I've been consuming, which again were the reasons I didn't do all the everything in February. One is working on the rebirth, a complete rebrand, relaunch of all things Waking the Wild. So as you're watching this right now, we're still called Primal Happiness, even though the work we do and all of our offerings are called Waking the Wild something. Our intention, and it's been our intention for rather a few more years than I'd like to mention, the intention is to rebrand so everything is then under the Waking the Wild banner. So the business itself will be called Waking the Wild, our podcast, everything. And so we're in the final few weeks. It should have been launched a while ago. We then took the decision to completely move it on to another platform. So the website itself is actually pretty much built. We've decided to completely move it. And so we will be, probably this time in a month, we will be Waking the Wild at last. And it's really exciting. I mean, it will just be wonderful to finally be that in this kind of really congruent way, but it's also the first time that we've clearly articulated our philosophy, our methodology, first principles, all in one place. So obviously referring to them constantly, but we haven't had that place to kind of really articulate it, partly because we were just constantly waiting for this to happen. So we've kind of held back from bothering to update it on the current website, but all of that will happen. And we're going through a kind of internal rebirth as well, in terms of our kind of, I'll bore you with it, but kind of some of our internal operating systems. So we will be reborn in a month's time. So there's been a hell of a lot of focus in the team on that, which has been, both challenging but also so exciting. I absolutely can't wait to share all that with you. And then the other thing I've been creating along with the rest of the Waking the Wild team is Waking the Wild Medicine 2022. And oh my goodness, it really has, it's really begun. We're only now 4 weeks in, and already the kind of depths that we're journeying to are actually blowing me away. The last Waking the Wild Medicine last year was incredible, like so deep, so magical, so much love. But that kind of happened over that, it was a sort of slow burn, I guess, certainly compared to this one. And over the course of the 6 months, it was just amazing to witness what was possible in an offering like that. This Waking the Wild Medicine, it just feels as though we've dived in so fast, and already like so much is being activated. We haven't actually even begun the work of descending into the sacred wound. But people are kind of going there of their own accord, which is, it's hard. It's hard for them. It requires a lot of us to be able to hold that, and the depths they're willing to go to means that the potency of medicine they can take from that wound will be just incredible. Really is medicine the world needs. So that's what has been taking up a lot of my energy and focus in terms of creating over this last month. But I couldn't wish to be doing anything other than that. I count my blessings for doing the work that I do every day. It is just amazing, and really is, I guess, a testament to what it is like to be your medicine. This is me being my medicine, and my goodness, it feels a bazillion times better than I could have possibly imagined. And I'd have fairly good, I've got a great imagination, and even I could have anticipated it to be this wonderful, just bring in so much abundance of all kinds. So really looking forward to that happening for the circle of medicinal ones who are journeying through that now. Okay, now on to, again, this is a mixture of topics. So the key ones that I'm really hoping to get into the time that I have available are magical focus. And this was named as, I think, vision focused, and how everything we speak is a spell. And so I'm going to start with that. Then I'm going to talk about dreams, then trees, and then see if I get time to do others. As I said, I think I'm likely to continue doing a format of show like this. So any that I don't get a chance to get to, I'll keep a note of, and then every time I do a show like this, I'll make sure I speak to that then. So don't feel, if I haven't come to yours, don't feel that you're never going to have the opportunity to hear me speak on it. I promise I will keep them, and then one way or another I will get a chance to speak to them, I suspect, as I say, in this format, because I think I'm going to love it. Okay, so it occurred to me, as I was pondering these topics and the order I was going to speak to them in, that in a way this show is a bit like a whole Waking the Wild crucible in an hour or so. The way that we're going to co-create this is very much how we create a Waking the Wild crucible. So if you haven't journeyed with us in one of those before, you're going to get a little taste of that. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, and there's a very good reason for that, is we're going to talk about vision focus and how everything, and I'm going to change this word. I think the way it's named in the Facebook group is how everything you do is a spell. Sorry, everything you speak is a spell. I'm actually going to say it as everything you do is a spell. And this, the way I'm going to speak about it is quite meta. I'm going to show you how I use it in how I create everything I create. So creating a vision, and we will do this, Jonathan and I, the team and I, a client and I, a student and I will do this before we do anything. I'll be constantly saying a bazillion times a day, or my children as well, I'll either say, what's the vision or what's the intention? I say that over and over again. What's the vision? What's the intention? And the intention kind of informs the vision. So depending on the context, I may say one or the other. So firstly, before you start anything, really feel into what is the intention for this. And the most powerful intentions, the intentions that are going to create the life you want to live, are ones that are from the heart, ones that you can feel are deeply aligned with your soul, with your true will, and are from love rather than from fear. So when we understand, like, that's what I desire, that is the intention, and that's what we create a vision around. Then once we have that vision, we focus on it, which sounds so simple. And honestly, people who kind of hear that and think, is that really all it's about? Firstly, yes, you know, that so much of the power of being able to bring into being what we want in the world is about our focus. But the real power is developing that loving awareness of when our focus has moved from our vision, when it's been dragged away by fear. I'm going to speak a little bit more about that in a moment. So it's that loving awareness of, oh, my focus is over here now. That's okay. I will bring it back. And you can hear the kind of lightness and love in the way that I just described it. That's so key, not making ourselves wrong for something that's incredibly human, particularly in this modern world of having our focus moved away. So this, when I talk about focus, isn't this like rigid, we focus on our vision and we must not deviate from focusing on our vision or the world will blow up. It really is a case of noticing, oh, here I go again, let's move it back to my vision, all is well. That's the real power. And some people, and I probably am one of them, I naturally have, and it's probably an autistic thing actually, I naturally have a strong focus. It's easier for me than many people to stay focused on something, but I still have moments when my focus goes away. And this will be very dependent on both our own wounding, our own shadows that like tell us stories about the thing. So if our vision is, I don't know, creating a new project, let's say, the shadow that we have around our ability to create will be saying to us, you're going to fail, people are going to laugh at you, no one's going to want that, whatever that kind of narrative from our particular shadow is. We then start to focus on that. That's what I'm talking about in terms of moving our focus away. And again, in this modern world, life is also just full of distractions. And so really naturally, that kind of like all this noise of, you know, social media, the noise, the news, other people just, you know, wanting our attention, that will also just keep moving our focus away from our vision. So again, if you're like me, you naturally have a strong focus, it's still going to be really important for you to recognize the places where it's pulled away. And if you don't have a really naturally very strong focus on your vision, it could be that you have a really, really great gift for that bringing it back. So really notice it doesn't really matter where you fall in terms of that focus if you are conscious to where you naturally fall and develop whatever's required to be able to come back to your vision. Then talking about how everything we do is a spell. I was thinking, oh, I could make this like be and do, be, do and speak, but I'm just going to call it do for the moment. And the reason is, it's like, yes, it absolutely includes what we speak, but not just speak. It's also think, move, surround ourselves with. It's all of the things. All of that informs what we create in the world, the spells that we're casting. And it's that again is something that is in my awareness a bazillion times a day. I'll be constantly saying to clients things like, is that queenly? Or, excuse me, got the dog rolling around on his back groaning. Asking them whether what they're speaking out is that from love or is that from fear? Sarah, one of the Wake and Wild team, I'll actually say to her unique archetype is called Noir. And I'll say to her, would Noir say that? And she shared a really, in fact, I think it was probably what she shared that inspired this particular topic suggestion. I'll ask Sarah if she's willing to share it and link this to this show, but she shared a funny example of that exact thing that happened where she spoke something to me. I said, is that something Noah would say? She said no, and then it came true. So it really was such a good example of how what we speak, and again, what we do is a spell. So again, bringing it back to this being how I create everything, my vision for this show, which was definitely, in fact, I'm going to hold that. I'm going to talk about this spell in a minute. So my vision for this episode was to create an experience for my listeners, for my viewers, which captivates and activates, allows them to feel their own soul's truth, which is always the most important thing for me, and inspires them to take aligned action after listening. So that was my vision. And as it happens, my focus was indeed challenged because I had all manner of these technical. So I'm just going to ask the family to retrieve the dog from the room. Because I had all the technical issues with Facebook, then I couldn't log into YouTube. So my focus was well and truly being pulled away from that vision. I was thinking, do I just not even try and go live? Do I just not do the show at all after the amount of technical issues I've had today? Is it even worth doing this at this point? So my vision for the show that I wanted to create was being well and truly, oh my goodness, that's so funny. I noted down some examples of fear and distraction that might show up. Oh my God, talk about every speak as a spell. This is ridiculous. I'm going to share with you this in a moment. But my focus was being tugged left, right, and centre by all of these technical issues. And then my work was, okay, it is a challenge, breathe, focus back on the vision, which is why I'm here now doing this. The funny part is, I made a note of some examples of fear and distraction that might show up as I was focusing on my vision for the show. Number one, and I wrote this 2 days ago, tech issues. I did indeed cast that spell. Number two on the list, dog interruptions. And if you're either watching this, you'll see the dogs circling in the background being interrupting. And if you're listening to this, you can probably hear them. So I absolutely did exactly as I said. I spoke that out and created the spell from it. Oh my goodness. So again, my business, my work here is to keep noticing with love when my focus has got away from my vision and then bring it back. Then, as we're in the work of doing this, notice all the ways everything we do is a spell. So I'm going to give you some examples of how I do that. And it's going to sound like quite a lot. And know that it certainly isn't everything. These are just like a few snippets as examples. So before I began, I created the vision. I then also did a ritual before I kind of got online and started up this, like, before I logged into Zoom. I then have, for those of you who are watching, I always have a fresh rose on my desk. This is so that every time I look at it, I'm reminded. You may have seen my post a few weeks ago about the meaning the rose has for me, and particularly my rose mantra, which is relax, open, soften, express, which for me is an incredibly powerful reminder multiple times a day, but particularly when I'm doing a show like this. So that's another thing. Then I am always aware that I'm only here to evoke whatever is in alignment with what I'm devoted to. And what I'm devoted to is union of all kinds, union between masculine and feminine, union between the human and their soul, union between the human and the divine, union between polarities. This is something that is my deepest devotion. Everything I create is an offering to that. And so as I do this, that's in my awareness. Is this creating union? This will also be supported by my highest values. And mine are love, magic, beauty, and truth. And it was interesting because they've been my values now for many, many years. And then I only realized a few months ago they're my initials, and I had never realized that. So as in L for love, Leanne, magic, M, and my middle name's Marie, Brooke, beauty, T for truth, and Tyler. So yeah, real magic there. And I literally only realized that a few months ago. And so that will be infused in everything I do. So then talking particularly about this show, that will be that loving way that I think about myself, the way I think about you, the way that I speak. I'm brought present to all the ways that I'm in alignment with love. And when I'm not, I recognize that and again, bring myself back to love. Truth is about speaking about what's true at an internal level, energetic laws, natural laws. Is about the truth of my soul, the truth of your soul. As I spoke about earlier, I'm only interested ultimately in you being united with your soul. Anything that I share that takes you in that direction, for me, is the whole point. I've got no desire to convince you of anything that isn't in alignment for you. Lastly, no, it's not lastly, beauty and magic. In terms of beauty, again, this is one of those values that's taken me years, I guess, to come to terms with and see that it's not just something shallow. It really is, for me, an expression of spirituality, expression of the divine. And so the way that I'll bring beauty into this creation will be about my lighting, what I'm surrounded with. So if you're watching again on the video, the background that I have, the audio quality, which is also informed by Jonathan because I've got no clue about audio quality, but I care about the beauty of it, but I need him to tell me how to get to that. What I wear. So again, if you're watching this, I purposely put on this midnight blue and sparkly gold number, thinking it would be beautiful for the pre-show party, which didn't happen. But that is how I was thinking. It will be in how I speak. It will be in everything that I'm creating. For me, has that have beauty in my awareness. Lastly, magic. Creating all of this, everything I spoke about, with magic, with that magical focus, as I just described, and unashamedly inviting you into living an enchanted life. For me, that is really the whole point. I believe it is absolutely possible for humans to live an enchanted life, to live mythical lives, lives filled with magic. I do, I believe for anyone who wants that kind of life, it is available. So that's, for me, why magic is so important. So that may have sounded like all of that I just listed is just this show. All of the ways that I create this show, how intentionally I create it. And it might sound like a lot of effort. Like, oh my goodness, like really, I get what you're saying, that everything we do is a spell, but like, how have you got the time and energy to do all of that? The truth is, it comes as naturally as breathing. And that's, again, I think partly my nature. This is just how I am. But it's also, I think it's something that the more we live in alignment with soul, the more this just makes sense. The more we care about consciously creating from that place, it becomes easier and easier to bring that level of intention to everything we do. And honestly, I think it takes at least the same amount, if not less, energy to create in an intentional way than it does to create in an unintentional way, an unconscious way. I really don't believe that, even though I just shared with you the level of intention that goes into this creation, I don't believe it really would have saved me any real time or energy not to have done that. And I would have then been managing the kind of mess that I would have been creating by not having creative intention. So for me, it's just a no-brainer. Like, I can't imagine why I would want to live in a way where I'm not being conscious about the spell that I'm creating. And so again, the rose, for example, yes, this rose is actually from a whole bunch of roses. I buy a bunch of roses, or at least one, sometimes I might buy more than one, every week. And that's on top of the bunch of flowers my husband buys me every week. I buy specifically the rose because the reasons I've said, because it is it's almost like an altar for me in itself. It's where I go to pray. It's where I go to be informed and inspired by the divine. So yes, buying those roses every week does take me time, energy, and money. But knowing how many times a day, and this is just this one rose on my desk, I've also got the roses elsewhere in my house, but every time I pause and look at this, what it provides me is immeasurable, absolutely immeasurable. And because it's immeasurable, I can't tell you for sure that it outweighs my investment in it, but I'm pretty sure it does. So in summary, that when I speak, and I do speak a lot about vision and focus and how what we're putting out there in the world is a spell, I hope you can see that example I've just given you, specifically just about how I'm creating the show. That is how I create my whole life, and that's my invitation to you. You don't necessarily need to do it to the degree that I've just described, but even step in this direction, step in the direction of intentionally having a vision, intentionally bringing your focus back to it, intentionally noticing how you are creating a spell with everything you do. Even a 5% shift in that direction will be magical, will be powerful. So I'd love to know how you get on. Okay, how am I doing with time? I've ended up speaking a lot, haven't I? About really just 3 topics so far. I've no idea how long I've been online. Okay, right, let's move on to trees. And again, you know how I said this is like a Wake Wild crucible in itself? The way we've gone through this so far is very much how we'd go through a Wake Wild crucible. So we'd start with the vision. We would then, one of the key practices we would invite anyone, any of our clients, any of our students into is finding a tree or a sit spot or both. That is in pretty much all of the work we do, because we see it as that foundational, that important. So as I say, we're a month into Wake Wild Medicine, and one of the very, very first invitations we made was, and we give guidance how to do this as well, how to select that special tree. So again, if there was only one thing you took from this whole episode, it was to go and find that tree and create a relationship with it. My goodness, that would be life-changing on its own. So if you'd like, and please do ask us, I'm really happy to give extra guidance on this in written form, because the more, again, going back to what I was just saying, the more intentional we are about that choice, the more powerful it will be for us. And so again, we would say to someone, ideally, go choose a tree. If someone is more drawn to a different kind of nature spot, for example, sitting by a river, that's absolutely fine too. And it just happens that I have like such a deep relationship with trees. And in particular, my three special trees, including the one at the woods that I do my shamanic work in, that I always love to make that invitation first for the people who are really tree people. And I think we all are tree people, but some of us are like really tree people. What that will open you to would be incredible. So again, I haven't got time to go into detail, but if you'd like, contact us and let us know if you'd like an extra level of detail in terms of choosing a tree, making that initial connection. I can give that to you. Once you've done that, make that something you regularly go to commune with. Go and spend time there. Put yourself in your tree's shoes, which I know sounds strange, but that's something I think actually comes very naturally to us when we allow ourselves to do it. Listen, love, make offerings, go hug it, go cry at it. I mean, the amount of my tears that must be in the ground around my oak tree are just like, it'll keep it watered the next 100 years. And listen to the tree speaking back. For me, that has been one of the most powerful, profound relationships in my life. And what it's then led on to has been incredible. I genuinely don't think I'd be doing the work I do without that. So listen and see what you're being guided towards. It could be that your tree will provide you that next breadcrumb. Listen. Okay. Now moving on to dreams, and then I think I'll need to double check whether I've got time for anything else. So dreams are one of my favourite topics. In fact, I've spoken a lot about my dream last night to I think 4 different people. That's a great example of my relationship to dreams. And I've always had very intense dreams, and I've always had naturally very good dream recall. But that's not true for everyone. So if you're listening to this and just like, I barely dream, or if I do dream, I can't seem to remember it. Firstly, what I would ask you to do is recognize that it is entirely possible for you to have incredible dream guidance. I have now worked with so many people who have said to me, I don't dream, or I don't remember my dreams, and then following the recommendations I'm about to give you, have indeed found they are a dreamer. So firstly, set an intention, actually set an intention to dream and remember your dreams. When we've created such a strong relationship with our dreams, I can now actually say to what I call my night self, the dreamer, I would love a dream on this particular topic, and almost always I will have a dream on that particular topic. It really is that powerful. Your subconscious mind is listening all the time. So set the intention to dream and to remember your dream. Keep whatever format of recording close by you, and as soon as you wake up, start feel into what's present for you, and often you'll notice you'll have like a little strand, it could be a feeling or a scene. Just feel into that, and then just see if you can kind of almost like, imagine you're on a watching a video. See if you can kind of like fast forward and rewind a few scenes and see what comes available from that. So just spend some time bringing that to present. Then free flow, capture as much as you can in present tense, as if you're still in the dreaming place. Speak about it as if, and another way actually is to do an audio record if you prefer, but capture it as if you're still dreaming, and notice as you do so how more will start to fall back in. And capture as much detail as you can, particularly things like colours, feelings, sensations, thoughts, symbols, animals, all of those things that are like the details that when you see them written down will start to speak back to you. After you've done that, name it. Name your dream. But that in itself is really informative. I've worked with people where they, for a period of time, captured all their dreams, and then when we would have a session together, they'd share with me this like incredible list of dream names. So they'd only show me they'd share specific dreams I asked them to, but at the top level, they literally just share this list of dream names, and that in itself told this incredibly profound story. You could literally just read through this list of dream names and like, oh wow, look at what's being said here. So name the dream, but again, do this after you've written it. Don't start to go up into too much of your conscious thinking until after you've captured it. Name the dream, date the dream. Then really allow yourself, now I'm going to make a very specific conversation about this, allow it to have meaning. I don't mean as in like make it really like big and heavy and serious, but allow it to be meaningful. One of the biggest wounds of our culture, and I see this again particularly as we're doing regular medicine, when we're working with very magical people who have really repressed their gifts, repressed what they're capable of in order to be able to like regulate and fit into this modern culture, we make ourselves wrong for making meaning, and making meaning specifically of things that are of the soul, of the subconscious mind. And so that could be dreams, it could be visions, it could be out of the blue knowing, all the different ways that we know things in a non-logical, non-linear, non-intellectual way. We can very much make wrong ourselves and others for making meaning of that. And so first of all, my invitation to you is to really allow yourself to make meaning of your dreams. Like my tree, my dreams have been one of the most powerful guides to creating my life in a soul-aligned way that I could possibly wish for. My goodness, there's been big choices, like really important life choices I've made that specifically come from my dreams. They really are that important to me. And that's a choice. I've chosen to make them have that level of meaning, and that is a choice that has paid off over and over again. So allow yourself, give yourself permission to make meaning from them, and then notice what stands out to you. Again, as much as you can, try not to make it make literal sense. Occasionally you have dreams where they are so literal and you can just like, oh yes, of course, it's giving me that answer. Mostly it's not. Mostly dreams speak in metaphor. So there'll be stories that the feeling of it, the type of person it, the colours in it will point you in a direction that isn't meant to be taken literally. But again, the important part here is to allow yourself to make meaning of it, both in terms of looking at the dream, but then also looking for connections out there. And I'm going to give you an example of something that happened in my dream last night that is what I just see over and over again as I allow myself to live in this magical way. I have experiences like this all the time. So last night, part of my dream was being shown, and I didn't know the name of this at the time, but being shown in my dream that my symbol, as it were, was like I was a spiral nebula, as in the kind of, astronomical entity. So I woke up with this like how interesting. It was actually a magical dream. There's an episode going out probably the next month or so with the shamanist Chris Ludekow, and we go deep into dreams. And we talked about different types of dreams. And some dreams that we have are clearly magical dreams. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, all dreams are magical, and there's particular dreams are in themselves magical dreams as a particular category within the wider magical dreams. And this was one of those dreams. So I woke up like, okay, there's a really important message here for me. And then as I started to ponder on it, talk to some trusted others about it, I remembered two things. One was, on Monday, I was drawn to go and spend some time with an old oak that's a couple of fields along from my special tree, which is an oak. And I go to this other oak like less than once a year, like burying people. But for some reason, that's where my belly button led me, was to this other old oak. So I went there, so a good girl like that, and got there, and I noticed an empty snail shell. And then I noticed like there's another one next to it. Oh, there's another one. Anyway, I gathered up all of these different snail shells, and there was like 10 to 15 snail shells, snail shells, a bit of a tongue twister, seashell shells. No, I give up with that. It was about 10 to 15 shells, all in this kind of like meter, probably diameter around the tree. So I was gathering them all together and kind of like, oh wow, this has some like deep symbolism. And as I was doing it, a woman came along with a dog. My dogs went to go and see it, and so I got sort of dragged away from the tree, cut my finger, completely forgot about the whole thing with the shells. Then I remembered that this morning. I was like, oh my goodness, like one of the, like, I couldn't be a more perfect way of nature showing me the spiral than that over and over again. Then remembered earlier that same day, so before I saw the shells and before I had the dream, I was talking to Jonathan about something, and I said, do you know how I feel? It's like a snail that's lost its shell. I feel like I've got this level of kind of open-heartedness and vulnerability that is like, and not in a bad way, not like as in, oh, you know, it feels like I shouldn't have my shell, but it felt like that's just how it is. I'm just like a snail, really soft, very vulnerable, but it's perfect and it's okay, and I have no longer got my shell, and then completely missed the symbolism later in that day that I then was surrounded by these shells. And then, as I say, I dreamed about the spiral last night. So that's just an example of the way, as we open up our awareness to the way that life is providing to us, informing us, guiding us, we start to see these incredible connections, incredible synchronicities. That story that I've just shared with you will likely continue to go on, will continue to be told. I was shown why this spiral is important to me. I've already seen some that I'm not sharing right now because it's a magical secret, but it will continue to deepen because I choose to make meaning of it. I choose to see the connections. I choose for them to be a North Star in my life. So again, that's the invitation to you. If you would like that level of magic and meaning in your life, allow it to be something you give yourself permission for. Okay, I think I probably reached the end of this time together. There's definitely at least one more topic. One of them I really hope to get to, but I've definitely run out of time now, which was what's the effect on our body, on our health, by not expressing our medicine. And it's a topic that I'd love to get into. So I'm going to save that, and next time I do a show, I will make sure I include that one. But for now, I would love to know, did you hear in this episode something that resonated with your soul, that was true for you? And again, that's really the only thing I care about. It's what did you feel resonance with? Did you feel that in your body? Did you feel the sense of intrigue, Perhaps you, like me, have a sense of kind of like body knowing, whether that be tears or you feel it like truth bumps or truth chills. Was there anything here that felt like to you that next breadcrumb? And if so, I would love you to go back to my vision, take a line to action on it. So if you would like more of all of this soul stirring good stuff, the next Waking Wild Crucible to open will be Waking Wild Sovereign in June. We're likely to only have a couple of spaces. That's because a number of the current sovereigns journeying will likely continue to journey. We also have people who are already interested. So we're not yet in enrollment calls, enrollment conversations, but if you are really feeling a call to your inner king or queen archetype to create your life from sovereignty, it could be for you. So if you go along to primalhappiness.co/WTWS, you'll be able to register your interest there. When we are in the space of having enrollment conversations, we'll come to you first and offer that to you. And that call we really exploring deeply, is this an alignment for you? And if you are watching this on YouTube and you don't already listen to our podcast, I can tell you will love it. It's now coming up to fast approaching, I think, 400 episodes of all manner of just like the most eclectic mix of topics ever. And that's at primalhappiness.co/podcast. If you want to see all the other things we offer in terms of upcoming crucibles, I say the only one we've got coming up is Waking Wild Sovereign. All our other programs are filled. But if you want to go and check out all the things we do offer, that's at primalhappiness.co/go deeper. If you are watching this or listening to this outside of our Facebook group and you're not a member of our Facebook group, oh my goodness, come join us. It is the most, it's such a wonderful place. I think all the time, isn't it amazing that we've managed to create something that is, just a Facebook group, a free space on Facebook, and yet it has such love, such truth in it. Like, it is a beautiful place. So come join us. It's at facebook.com/group/primalhappiness. And lastly, if you are, I need to mention, I always forget to do this. If you're not watching this on YouTube, come join us on YouTube as well. And that's at, let me hope I've got this right. I think it's at youtube.com/wakingwild. And lastly, if you are not subscribed to our newsletter, you are really missing out. It is quite a masterpiece. We send it out on the full moon and the new moon, hence its name. And it is absolutely overflowing with all the things we've been up to over the last couple of weeks. So all of the different podcasts and videos and Instagram and different things we've got going on. Plus it will include new moon or full moon ritual, plus some kind of inquiry. It's really rich. And that's at primalhappiness.co/moonleap. Looks like I did it without further technical or dog interruptions. And now I can see that I did indeed cast that spell myself. I can't exactly feel annoyed about it. And what a perfect example. Thank you so much for joining me, whether you're watching, listening on the podcast, you're joining me live, or you are watching on the replay. I so appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of